myself again. But it's the only...
Good afternoon and welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is 7 interviews in 7 days to celebrate our first year as a channel, and I'm delighted to welcome a good friend of the show, Lee Clark. Good afternoon, Lee.
Hi, Steve. You okay? Amazing,
yeah, great.
By the way.
Yeah, good to see you, mate. Honestly, it's been a while. So last time I had you on was with Steve Howie, which was great. And just how we been doing through the last couple of weeks since we spoke. Everything okay with you and the family?
Yeah, all good. Me feeling a bit old because my youngest kid, Bobby, he was 16 on Sunday, so that's making us feel an old man. Obviously, we're here to speak about Newcastle, Steve, but I think I'd like to start the show by obviously hitting on a very serious and strong topic in the world of, well, football and life in general, in sport, and it's this racism and death threat scenario on social media. I actually came off. I'm only on Instagram, and I only done that because of to try and push my profile a little bit on the advice of the LMA, the League Managers Association. I've never been one who's done a lot of social media, but I've done that with them and actually came off it last week. I've reinstated it in the last 24 hours just because it's a tool for me to connect with friends and family. But I'm just totally absolute and devastated about the scenario that's going on currently with players in the men's and the women's game, with officials, the racist abuse they're getting, death threats to referees. It's absolutely scandalous. Now, I'm no expert, I'm no politician, but my idea would to be is, and I know you can get round this, but in lots of ways, because the modern technology for scammers in the world today is unbelievable. But one of my ideas is to, one, you have to give some kind of credibility to the account that you're setting up. So you provide a passport, you provide a driving license with an address. You have to go through all this when you're like trying to get finance for money laundering. Go through all these, and I think it has to go to this stage. I know it's going to be a rigmarole, but at the moment, all you have to do is stick an email address in and a password, and you're set up. Also, what you've got to do is you've got to name and shame these people. So once you find out who they are, you've got to get the picture out of them in the public domain, because I'm sure their mums and dads, their wives or husbands, their kids, their brothers and sisters would be devastated if they found out someone they knew was behaving in this way and is hidden by a parody account or fake account or whatever. And then thirdly, if and when you're caught and prosecuted, a custodial sentence. I think it's got to be that serious, and it has to, it has to be sorted out that strongly for me. You shouldn't have to do that. Everyone makes mistakes in life. Everyone, players don't have bad games on purpose. Referees don't make decisions that prove to be wrong or costly on purpose. They're human beings. Everybody who does a job in this world, an accountant, a solicitor, a bricklayer, a doctor, they make mistakes, but they're not getting absolutely pillaged, and they're not getting death threats, and they're not getting slaughtered for their race or their colour or whatever. It's totally it's disgusting, and people, it's been talked about. I've seen Dermot Gallagher, the ex-referee who refereed during my era, was saying about when he was refereeing, there wasn't social media, and he'd come out of the ground and he'd get a bit of stick and a bit of friendly banter off fans about decisions he'd got wrong, and that's as far as it would go. And I think the key point in all this is, and I've been in this scenario before as a player, as you well know, if we went out socially after a game and supporter wanted to come speak to us, which we're always open to, and if they wanted to have questions about the performance, what went right, what went wrong, I mean, very rarely had to say what went wrong, because we were always under the rule that if we didn't win, if we lost the game, which was few and far between. We didn't go out in the public domain in any way because we didn't put ourselves in that position, and we didn't feel that it was the right thing to do after losing the game. But if we went out and you bumped into supporters, they weren't hiding behind a fake account. They weren't hiding behind a keyboard where they could say absolutely derogatory things about you and your family, some scandalous things. But they would say to you, but they wouldn't be so forthcoming in front of your face. They'd say that, oh, what happened today, or because people, when you speak to them face to face, that they haven't got that safety net of people not knowing who they are and saying it to your face. And there's not many strong-willed people like that anymore. So obviously, I've been listening intently with various different people and their ideas. I listened to Brendan Rodgers, and he'd come out with a good statement, which is easier said than done, but it is. The players shouldn't go on these social medias to validate their performance. People who matter is them, their teammates, the supporters of that club, because genuine supporters of that club wouldn't behave in this way. Their managers, their coaches, and their family. And the bit of advice I can give to the players of today is just to back up what Brendan said. Don't go on these media and social outlets to validate your performance. If your manager and teammates and supporters of your club think you've done well, that's good enough.
Well said, Lee. Well said. We did the Think Before You Tweet campaign, obviously, in December after I had a troll turn up in my street. So, you know, from my perspective, I fully support what you're saying, and you know, nobody should have to put up with it. I mean, I've had death threats myself. You know, I've had tweets where people have said my wife should be raped. You know, I can fully agree. And as you say, these accounts that tend to do this tend to be anonymous accounts hiding behind pseudonyms. You know, Piers Morgan, not everyone's favourite cup of tea, but, you know, he's been championing this over the last couple of days on GMB about, you know, Gemma Collins, again, a reality star who, you know, will certainly be like Marmite, but does she deserve to be told that she needs to die? You know, no, she doesn't. So, yeah, I would agree with you 100%. And football's...
There's too much nonsense come of it, Steve. You know, since I've become a manager, you know, my children are on this, you know, that's the modern day world. You know, the youngsters of today, you know, are on medias, not just the youngsters, even, you know, all older people, because that's how the world works, and that's fine. But, you know, there's been so much, there's been fake news about yourself as a manager. I mean, leaving certain players out, and on that Saturday night, the fake news, I left a certain player out of my team because he was round my house when I was Birmingham City manager, and I caught him urinating in my fish pond. I mean, you know, if it wasn't so laughable, but it is, there's a serious tinge to it because it's absolute nonsense. It's just complete and utter lies. One, I never have invited the players round to my house socially in any way. My staff always, because they're important people, but I always kept that distance between myself and the players. But two, I never had a fish pond. So, you know, but, you know, that's just one tip of the iceberg. There was so many things. And, yeah, my kids have had awful things said about them. You know, someone's saying terrible things about myself, you know, about my personality, about me as a person, which are totally untrue. Hey, if I haven't got a result as a manager, tell us that I haven't done my job properly. Totally got to accept that 100% of a player, and I haven't been good enough. And people say that, no problem. Don't be then saying that, you know, I should die, or someone in my family should be raped, or we'll hope you catch cancer, or your kids should do this, do that. It's absolutely scandalous, and it's not what this was set up for. But it's come to the crunch now, Steve, where we've got to get serious. It's just happening all the time, and it's not acceptable. And it's until something serious changes, it's all right us having these debates and talking about it and doing these different protests. There's got to be action. Actions speak louder than words, and until this happens, we're not going to get rid of it, unfortunately.
No, good point. Well made, though, Lee. And glad that you're okay and doing well during this horrendous time. And I think ultimately, I think people have got more time on their hands during COVID. It's not an excuse, but I think that's why these things have certainly come to the forefront. But hopefully, it's going to take the social media companies to clamp down on this. But we will watch that with interest. Okay, we'll put out the questions to you, Lee, because we've had quite an influx from people who've got a whole mix of questions for you, not just Newcastle. So we'll start with Keith Roll on Twitter. He says, Steve, please can you ask Lee Clark, what was it like scoring for Fulham against Newcastle in 2002-2003? Fulham won 2-1, Lee got the winner. How did he feel after the match?
I was delighted because we needed the 3 points. The manager, Chris, had just took over on a temporary basis, Chris Coleman, who's a big pal of mine. I wanted him to get the job, so getting positive results. I think he had 6 games to get it. We won 4, drew 1 and lost 1 of the 6, so he got the job on a permanent basis, become the youngest manager in the Premier League at the time. I'm professional. I'm there to do my job. I tried my very best all the time, and I was there to win the game. I was there to probably prove that I was probably better than the midfield players in the other team. And you always hope that you can, impress people, and there's a chance that one day to come back. I know Bobby inquired about bringing us back. Sir Bobby inquired about bringing us back from Fulham. So yeah, it was the right thing to do. We had. My father was sitting behind the goal at the opposite end with the Newcastle fans. So, it was a very strange feeling after the game, but I had nothing to be ashamed of. I was there to do a job. Shea should have knew. I knocked them past him regular in the training ground, so he should have knew what was coming. He should have been ready for it. But no, it was the same the following season when, unfortunately, after me and Louis put us 2 up at Fulham, again, but Alan Shearer inspired Newcastle. They beat with 3-2. We were disappointed that day, but we went to Old Trafford a couple of days later and won 3-1 at Man United. So you're there to do a job for your team, and I think that's why I can always look myself in the mirror, no matter which game I've played in. I've just touched upon it many times. I haven't been very good in terms of my technical performance, but not once in my career could anyone say that I never give me best.
Good stuff. Peter Gallagher says, ask Lee, why did he leave Kilmarnock for Bury? I thought that was a head scratcher, he says.
Yeah, I look upon that now as, my main objective was I knew Bury were in a precarious position. I didn't know the financial situation. And I kept them in the league. There was 14 games to go in League One. I thought if I can do a strong job at Bury, keep them in the league, get them higher up the league the following season, I could then get an opportunity back, maybe in the Championship with somebody, to fulfil my ambition of being a Premier League manager. So done the first part, kept them in League One, with second bottom, and it obviously went a little bit pear-shaped the season after. I left in the October when first got wind of the precarious financial position. I knew things weren't looking great. Decided mutually with the chairman that we had to walk away from it, and obviously Ryan Lowe took over in the October, and in 6-7 months later they were relegated. In hindsight, I shouldn't have left Kilmarnock. Kilmarnock at that time had a little bit of a scenario, like a smaller version of what's going on at Newcastle. The chairman, he wasn't the majority shareholder, but he had a big enough stake where in the football club, a guy called Michael Johnson was the chairman, and the main man who's now there and appointed Tommy Wright yesterday, Billy Bowie, he was a majority shareholder. He was the man with the money. He was always saying, until he got sole control, his fantastic plans that he had, i.e. a new training ground, upgrading the hospitality facilities at the ground. The ground is a terrific stadium in any way, really 4 covered areas, and holds over 20,000. So a good enough ground in any way. Fantastic. The club own a hotel across from the club stadium car park, 5-star there, 4.5 star. So, and it was, when I look back, it was because I'd turned things around there at Kilmarnock, kept them up, and we were sixth, which was a big thing then to get them in the top six. And when I left, but it was because we were just, I couldn't see Michael Johnson ever leaving. Unfortunately, a family bereavement made him make his mind up to get out of football, and Billy's now majority shareholder, sole control, makes the decisions, and has improved the infrastructure again fantastically. So Tommy will be going into a good job.
Yeah, good luck to our friend Tommy Wright as he takes on the management job at Kilmarnock today. Wish him all the best. Top guy, and likes a night out as well when he's back in Newcastle. Joe McCabe says, do you have any aspirations to get back into management, Lee?
I do. I'm very strong. It's difficult. It's really difficult at the moment. I think one or two of the tough jobs that I chose to take, hoping to try and be the positive thing that would happen at those clubs, haven't worked out, and maybe holding us back a bit. But yeah, I do. I apply for, lots of jobs I have been that I fancied. There's been some jobs that have come to us that I haven't fancied. So yeah, I want to try and get back in the game. It's difficult. Been out of full-time management since 2017, so it's tough. So, but I still have aspirations of getting back into full-time football. My time at Blythe didn't really work out, and it didn't work out because I couldn't get the grips with the mentality of non-league football. I couldn't get the grips with the lack of ambition around the place, and it wasn't working out. Training sometimes once a week, not even training at all sometimes with the conditions. I didn't realise until I got into it that, football for these lads is secondary in terms, because I have a full-time job. So I had this ambition of going in there and trying to improve players so that we get the chance to go into the Football League. But it's a big risk for these lads, and the majority of them aren't prepared to take that now because they have a steady and good job already behind them, and they're not prepared to take the gamble of going into full-time football on a 1 or 2 year contract and having to prove themselves, and that doesn't work out. They might have lost their job that they're in, so that was another difficult area. So yeah, want to get back in, but it's got to be full-time.
Question that always comes up, Nathan John Davis, he says, why did you go to Sunderland, and did you feel unloyal to Newcastle leaving for Sunderland?
I went to Sunderland, one, because if the locality, I just had my oldest son, he was just a baby. We lived in Newcastle, we were settled, my wife's from the area. I'd worked with Paul Bracewell many times, and I had a good relationship. He was the assistant, and I liked what Peter Reid had to say, and the club had moved into a new stadium, was looking to be on the up. I never stopped being a Newcastle fan. I still come and watch Newcastle play all over the country. I went to away games. I went to many at St James's. Obviously went to the 2 FA Cup finals. So it never changed. And it was a job then. It was I had to look after my family, and that's what I've done. And no, I've never been disloyal to Newcastle United. I love the place. I was born on the banks of the Tyne. I went to my first game in 1980 when I was in London, living in London, playing for Fulham. I went to numerous away games around London, down to Southampton, back up to here. Unfortunately, I was up here the famous night of the Derby game, Ruud Gullit's last game in the torrential rain. Came up from London to watch that, and obviously seeing a defeat. So no, it's a decision I made, but Newcastle United is my club, will always be my club, and I'm proud I lived the dream. I think I was more successful than some people want to give us credit for. Every year I played in the Premier League, we qualified for Europe. Whether we could play in Europe was a different matter because of the ban on British clubs. But every year I played for them in both occasions, we qualified for Europe. I never lost a Tyne and Wear derby. And if I had stayed in the team that year, who's to say we wouldn't have won the Premier League?
That's what I always say to people, mate. That's what I always say to people. Talking about that season, Cattle Sweeney says, do you think that if Derek Fazackley had stayed on, that could have made a difference?
Possibly. Derek was a huge part of what we done, because Kevin let Derek do the coaching sessions. And Derek could put on any type of session, attacking session, defending session, fun session, tactical session, physical session. He was very good. That was one of the reasons I took him with us when I went into management myself. So he had the respect of the players. But the big pull for Derek at the time was going back to a club where he was the record, and I think still is, a record appearance holder, Blackburn Rovers, who's from the area. So it could have a big effect. I mean, we had good players, and Kevin wasn't into a lot of the coaching about the opposition. It was about what we could do. But still, he had a huge part to play in his relationship with Terry McDermott and Kevin. They worked well together.
Good stuff. Nick Williams says, what was the best or favourite football boots that you wore during your career?
Tough as a Puma Kings or Nike Tempos. I wasn't into the flashy colours. I like the Puma Kings. When I was with Adidas, I had a sponsorship deal with Adidas, and when I was a player, and it was when they were bringing these Predator boots out, and I wasn't too keen on these Predators, and that was the reason we couldn't agree a new contract, because I wanted to wear the World Cups and the Copas, and they wanted the new boots to be out there and on the TV and in the Premier League, the Predators, and I wasn't prepared to wear them, so I moved on to a new company because of that. But if it's the basic ones. It's the Nike Tempos, the black and white ones. It's the Puma Kings, or it's the Adidas World Cups. Well, as all three.
Ross Smith says, was Pavel Cernacek the best goalkeeper you played with at Newcastle?
Pav was a terrific keeper. We've just mentioned Tommy, terrific keeper, great lads. It's tough because I was obviously lucky enough to play with Shea as well, and Shea is right up there at the top. Just gets pipped with the best keeper I've ever played with in my career by Edwin van der Sar. So unfortunately, probably not the best keeper I played with, but it's right up there, and was a terrific keeper, character. We miss him every day, don't we? So
we do, mate.
So yeah, it's a brilliant guy and a brilliant footballer.
Ross also asked, what's it like signing for your boyhood club? And what was your best moment at Newcastle United?
What's it like? It's living the dream. It's a dream come true. You never think it's possible when you're a young kid. You never think that you're lucky enough when you're standing on the terraces watching Newcastle United players play, that you're one day going to do that. And when it happens, it's just surreal. There's lots of great times. My debut, my first goal, the promotion season, some of the games we played in with the results, the Man United 5-0, the Tottenham at home 7-1, going to Liverpool and winning in there, over there, and just so many things. I mean, coming back in my first full game again at Blackburn Rovers away the second time, because you never think it's going to happen. You come towards the end of your career, you think that ship sailed. Then your last goal, which against Middlesbrough, New Year's Day, which at the time you don't know if it is going to be, but and then I probably think it's some more as well as we're going along. It's just absolutely fantastic, and that's why when we did lose the game, certainly from the Kevin Keegan era onwards, the odd game, that's why it hurt so much.
Yeah, okay, good question. Dave Cook says, when playing for Newcastle, is there one match more than any other that sticks out for you, and why?
I don't know. I mean, I think in terms of the birth of the entertainers, I think it was probably the first game of the season against Tottenham when we lost 1-0 at St James's. I think that gave everyone a little bit of a shock because we're coming off the euphoria of romping the championship and having that last game of the season when we beat the playoff team in Leicester 7-1 in front of the cameras, and with probably everyone, players alike and fans, thought in the Premier League it's going to be a doddle. And I think the best thing that happened to us all was that little bit of a wake up call in the first game when we lost 1-0 to Spurs. I think Teddy Sheringham scored. Just give everyone a little bit of a kick up the backside, and I think we realised then, even though it took a couple more games to get my first points on the board, that this was going to be a tough ask, and but it allowed us to refocus, and it allowed us to become a powerful team in that era.
A question about obviously the new coach coming in. If Graham Jones became manager, would you go and work at the club for him if he asked you? I mean, it's a no-brainer. If anybody asked you to go to Newcastle, you would go, Lee, wouldn't you? Because it's your club.
Yeah, but listen, we're going. Listen, the fact of this situation is you've got an opportunity to go and work for the club, whoever's decision it was, and you'd like to think it was Steve's. And you're hoping it was Steve's. I think it was, but hey, I don't know. I'm not privy to that. He left Bournemouth. They were in the middle of a bad run. I think they went 5 defeats when the manager got sacked, and I think Graham was involved in at least 3 of those, possibly 4. So he was part of the setup that the Bournemouth hierarchy felt was not performance levels required for them to get back up. He come to Newcastle, and since he's been here, they've won 2 out of 3. And then there's this furore about him becoming the manager. He's had a go once in a club in Luton in the Championship that was doing really well before he took over. He found it difficult. He moved on, and the manager who was there before him, Nathan Jones, who moved to Stoke and found it difficult there, went back to Luton and has got them back on track again. So it's not as simple as that. I think it's too easy to say it. Yes, everyone's made a contribution, but the people who've made the biggest contribution and the biggest turnaround are the players. They produced performances, and Saturday epitomised that for me. Down to 10 for half an hour, 35 minutes, possibly more. Down to 9 for 15 minutes, plus injury time. The performance levels from the second half against Leeds onwards have been much, much better, and have resulted in 2 wins. 2 wins out of 3 games, and so well done. Everyone's contributed, but I think we're talking about Newcastle United in the Premier League, so that job shouldn't just be given out lightly to anyone. You've got to be worthy of that job and got to deserve it. So let's just chill out for a bit, and hopefully this good run can continue.
Danielle says, hi Nash lad, are you still loving the Sainsbury's Blush Rosé?
I've actually I haven't had a drink. I went on before Christmas and just tried not having a bit with that time without alcohol, and I'm coming up to 11 weeks on Friday.
Wow.
So you're saying wow, Steve, I feel all right, but I'm substituting it with ridiculous amounts of chocolate. So I don't know what's going on. I mean, honestly, there's not enough chocolate in the shops at the minute by me to get us through this. I'm absolutely, and it's all this live football as well. I'm watching on a Sunday, I'm watching 5-6 live games through from midday till 10 o'clock at night, and I'm just absolutely battering the cups of tea and the chocolate. So I'm not too sure if it's worked the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, it's one of them things. It is difficult, but you'll find your way, mate. You'll find your way. There is other substitutes. Get yourself some grapes and stuff or whatever.
Come on, Steve. Come on, man.
What's the funniest prank that's ever been played in the Newcastle dressing room when you were there, says Craig?
We've had numerous ones. We've had the ones where we've cut the toes off the socks, Fastino socks. We've cut the arms off his shirts, and when he hasn't realised, and when he went to put them on, it's ended up being like a shirtless, an armless shirt, and he's kicked off and started playing one of those Geordies in the group. which he was right. You know, there's the ones of taking the eyepieces out of the hotel doors, and when we've knocked on the door, big Philippe come to answer the door and squirt the fire extinguisher in through there, which probably is not the most sensible thing to do when we've got a big game the next year, and one of our mainstay centre halves is nursing an eye injury. And I had to make sure we got away quickly, like, because if the big fella had got a hold of it, we might have made the game as well with a couple of injuries. It was just constant. It was constant, that camaraderie we had at the training ground. And the thing was, at Newcastle, Steve, you know this, it was obviously a council-owned training facility. So you had, you know, we weren't in one big dressing room or like separated into groups of 5s and 6s. And then obviously you had the students who'd come in playing badminton 5-a-side or doing athletics. And there was just, they must have looked at us and thought, professional outfit, craziness. We're just absolutely going mental with each other, you know. And no, it was good. The other one was when Kevin was in charge, because he didn't name the team until about an hour before kick-off, an hour and a half. So, and if you were getting left out, he'd send Terry Mack into the dressing room for his office at St. James's to come and get you. So what we all started doing then, we started putting towels around our neck because we called it the custard pie. So when Terry come and give you the curly finger, you knew you were getting the custard pie, and we all were sitting there with the towels on waiting. And he came in once and he ran back out. He went and got the gaffer, Kevin, and Kevin come in and just creased laughing, like, he's like, "What's up?" We said, "Oh, we're just waiting for the curly finger off Terry, or one of we, because we're just putting the towel on with so the custard pie doesn't get on my gear." So yeah, we made a bit of a laugh and a joke out of everything. We had unbelievable balance into when to get serious and when to enjoy ourselves. You know, we had great relationship. We could all be part of a joke, and we could all be taken of a joke as well. So that was good.
Great stuff. Big shout out to our sponsor for this month, Spider VPN. You can say that they've sponsored our StreamYard application this month. A big shout out as well to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend in Newcastle. Also the maker of our t-shirts as well, which you can buy from newcastlelegends.com. And last but by no means least, big shout out to John from Jab Signature, who creates all of our flyers. And don't forget, get yourself involved in Alan Shearer's raffle at this moment in time, raising money for the Alan Shearer Foundation. You've got a great opportunity, £10 a ticket to win the boots, the match shirt and the captain's armband from Alan's 250th goal game. So well worth a look, well worth a punt. A couple of weeks left to go on that raffle, so get yourself involved. Last couple of questions off Twitter. Mark Bayer says, is it true that you only signed for the Mackhams because they made you a millionaire?
Ticked one of the boxes.
Paul Oxley says, what did you say to the Huddersfield chairman after he sacked you? I find it amazing that when you had a 43-game unbeaten run during your time with them, that you would be sacked by them.
I was just talking about this the other day to someone. Because we were talking about how well Wycombe Wanderers had done in getting to the Championship. Though I find it a bit difficult, but still been amazing. Because my last away game was a Friday night game at Wycombe, and we won 6-1. Jordan Rhodes scored 5. Then the following Tuesday, we lost a big promotion battle with Sheffield United 1-0. Harry Maguire scored, and we were 3 points off top with 2 games in hand after that game. That's when I, on the Wednesday morning, got the sack, and it was actually a phone call. He was away. He was on a skiing holiday at the time, so he hadn't been to the game on the Tuesday evening. And I was wanting to speak to him. You know this story. You've heard it. I was wanting to speak to him because I'd been approached by Jez Moxey and Steve Morgan at Wolves to take to go for interview. To go for interview about replacing Nick McCarthy at Wolves. So I wanted to speak to the owner that morning to get permission to speak to Wolves, but he beat us to it and got rid of us. Well, there's another example of the start of the show about conspiracy stories. So many rumours and fake news about the reasons why they got rid of us, etc., etc. None of it the truth. Ultimately, the truth since it's me and Owen have still good friends, spoke about it and what had happened. Because obviously I was doing well. I was getting touted for lots of jobs, Leicester City, and then Leeds United, and Leeds was mentioned in the pre-match press conference before the Sheffield United game, which proved to be my last, and Ken Bates was chairman. They were looking for a manager, the biggest rivals of Huddersfield, and I didn't want to talk about it. I wanted to talk about the game, and because I didn't knock it on its head and say I wasn't interested, I think the owner was a little bit peeved by that, which I understand. Whether that was the sole reason why, I don't know, but certainly wasn't for the reasons and then got bandied about on social media.
Okay, Tom Dixon says, Lee, when you first won the First Division in 1993, what were your thoughts on seeing all the crowd on the streets, watching the team on the bus and the day you wanted to take the trophy home? I mean, Tom was obviously there, and it was a good old day had by all. But not very often we'll get a chance to celebrate things as Newcastle fans, but that was amazing. It felt like the birth of something really special, and of course it was with the entertainers. But what was it like for you being on that bus? Can you remember it?
I was just going to say that, Steve. And obviously that crazy interview when I was saying I was going to take it to him. I remember Sir John Hall saying to Kevin, was I in any fit state to go on the top of the bus? He was trying to keep us on the bottom level, because when I got on at the Gosforth Park, obviously, I'd had one too many, and I was bouncing, like, to be fair. So he was panicking that if I got on the top, I might have ended up in the crowd over the top of the barriers. And but when you look back, and I've seen some footage of it over the last 6 months, lots of people put it out there. It was unbelievable. I mean, the streets were just packed. People climbing up them huge lampposts and hanging on the, as we went down Gosforth High Street on the ledges of the pubs. And it took so long to get from the Gosforth Park Hotel down to the Civic Centre. It's just amazing. And as you say, started something special, a special era, but that just showed you if you give these fans something to celebrate, wow, what could happen. So if there was something big one in terms of a big cup competition, the domestic cup competition, or pie in the sky at the moment, but a Premier League or whatever, but what could happen, the turnout would be just unbelievable, and something that you can never forget for the rest of your life.
Jeff Willicks is asking what was the best goal you've ever scored. I had that sent by Paul Oxley as well on Twitter. He's saying 24th of August 1991 season. Lee Clark and Andy Hunt scored in a 2-2 home draw. Looks like it's against Watford, that, isn't it? It was
a header past David. My first two, I think that might have been my second goal, I'm not sure, but two of the early goals from Newcastle, and certainly my first ever one, was a header. It Wolves away in a 2-1 defeat, so wasn't renowned for many headed goals. That first one's is a bit special, but it means nothing because you don't get anything from the game. So yeah, goals, whenever I scored them, I didn't score a lot, but whenever I scored them and we got a positive result, they're always the ones that stick in the mind. And to do that, it's the best feeling in the world. That's why, the toughest thing for VAR at the moment and no fans is when you score, you could wait 4 or 5 minutes before you celebrate, and that moment's gone. Plus, there's no fans to celebrate it with. So it's tough at the moment, I could imagine, when you're scoring.
Yeah, okay, good stuff. Cheers for that, Jeff. Good question. Dave Cook says, hi Lee, you've praised Steve Bruce's management skills in the past. Have you changed your mind yet? P.S. You're still a legend.
I've praised Steve before, and I've knocked him before. And leading up to the Everton result, and I know the second half against Leeds was better. What performances and results were horrendous, and we were hurtling towards getting sucked into a relegation battle. I personally don't think that's the case now, because I don't think that the bottom three is going to change. I cannot see them getting enough points to get to safety. And I would even say I would find it difficult to see them getting even to where we are now. And that breaks me heart, because Fulham's in their club that I've got so much love for. But they've had a good spell, but they still haven't had wins. And they don't seem to be able to get those wins. Sheffield United were the team out the bottom three was showing any kind of form, but obviously, that loss against Chelsea at the weekend makes it more and more difficult. So listen, Steve's a pal. We got friendly with him. Knew him before I went as Birmingham manager, but got even friendly. Me and my wife, with him and his wife. He's from the area. I followed the same path as me. Wallsend Boys Club, Benfield School. He's done good things by me. I signed his son a couple of times. But I'm a Newcastle United fan, and when he's done good things, I've said, and when I've asked for to be given time, and when he's done bad things, I've said that. And in that run before Everton was one of the worst runs and some of the worst performances I've seen. And that's me speaking as a fan, like I always do. I'm not here to stick up for people and try and if I feel it's right to, I will. But ultimately, the biggest thing for me in all this is Newcastle United. They were hurtling towards relegation before that Everton result and what's happened in the 2 wins from the last 3 games. So and the level of performance wasn't what was required. So definitely, I don't need to change my mind. I just be honest. I'm not BSing anybody.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough, mate. Fair enough, and everyone's got their opinions. So you're always a straight talker, and I always appreciate that. You coming on and saying that, mate. And to be honest, look, if Steve Bruce keeps us up again this season, he's down as the head coach, and no matter who brought Graham Jones in, it'll be mission accomplished in the 2 seasons he's been here.
That's the saddest thing, Steve. That's the saddest thing. We're saying mission accomplished because we stayed in the league.
Sadly,
that's the saddest thing about it all. That's the total ambition from the top, and that's what cheeses me off, because if you keep setting the bar to finish 4th bottom, eventually you'll not finish 4th bottom.
That's right. You're right, Rob.
Let's aim for the stars and we might reach for the moon. Was one of Kevin's famous sayings. Let's aim to, when he came and we got the Premier League and he said this team's going to challenge to win the Premier League, he got ridiculed, he got laughed. Kevin Keegan, they just said pie in the sky. He's too much of a romanticist and all this, and it's not reality but it was, because he knew if we had high standards and we had big aims and we aimed for that and we failed, we'd still be doing well when we finished. That season we finished 6th and we were gutted because we finished 6th in the Premier League. That was the example, because we aimed to win it in 6th. Second was gutting, but it means that you've done well and you challenge for the trophy. But when you aim for, when your ambitions are so low, to finish 4th bottom in mission accomplished, which is, you said it, but it's not it's what's been put in our heads and what's been drilled into it during Mike Ashley's era. Twice we've fell through the trapdoor. It'll happen again when you keep having that type of mentality. No danger. So, if it doesn't happen this year, it could happen next year, because ultimately the ambition from the top isn't what it should be.
Yeah, 100% agree, mate, and that's what needs to change. John Mockler says, how hard was it leaving Sunderland after having played so well for them? I mean, you did really well there, Lee, and, I think it's through gritted teeth for a lot of Sunderland fans, but they still say you were a great player down there, mate.
Exactly what I was saying at the start, Steve, when they asked us about what I felt when I scored the winner for Fulham. This was the same feeling. I knew I couldn't go to either the Stadium of Light versus Newcastle or St James's Park versus Newcastle and give everything. And that's not me. I couldn't play in those 2 games against Newcastle United for Sunderland and look me manager and teammates in the eye in the Sunderland team at the time and say I'm going to run through the proverbial brick wall, because I couldn't have done it for Sunderland v Newcastle. I could do it for Fulham v Newcastle. I could have done it for any other club if I had played for them v Newcastle. Yeah, but we're talking about our biggest rivals, and I couldn't, and that played in my mind and played in my thoughts all throughout the summer. But once the promotion was secured by Sunderland, I knew I asked for a transfer before the season ended. We'd already won the league before the season finished. We'd lost to Leicester in the semi-final of the Cup over 2 legs. And I went in to see Peter Reid. Andy Gray, it was on Sky. Andy Gray was doing the commentary, and while Andy was there, I said to Peter, I need to leave. You know, I can't stay next season when you're competing against Newcastle. And Peter laughed it off, and a few expletives later kicked us out of his office. So yeah, listen, and that was the main reason. Obviously, people then think, oh well, you wore a T-shirt on purpose. I didn't. That got put on us. That helped speed up the process without a shadow of a doubt. There was no way I could play for them then. Never mind what Peter wanted. It was impossible. So, and that just fell into the way it was.
Yeah, okay. Peter Robson says, were there any players that came through the ranks who didn't make it that you thought should have done and who were special in your mind?
Yeah, I always say this, and it's a standout one, and that there was a lad called Tommy Herron. So Tommy was an unbelievable footballer. He was a left footer, and they always look elegant. They look far more elegant than right footers. And Tommy could make or score a goal. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out for him at Newcastle, but there was loads of options for him to go elsewhere. And he just decided professional football wasn't for him. But he was an outstanding. I remember when we went to the Northern Ireland Milk Cup and we beat Liverpool with McManaman and Fowler. Crew had a famous academy then. We beat them. And we beat Manchester United in the final with Giggs and Beckham and Scholes. I got player of the tournament, player of the final, and Tommy got the top goal scorer. We'd done a clean sweep under 15s, and Tommy was exceptional. And yeah, that's the player that, if you ask any lads from Mayhew who sticks out as a top player who didn't make it, and it was probably Tommy's choice. It was probably Tommy's decision. It wasn't down to his ability, that was for sure.
The one that got away. Martin Scott says, loved Clarkey as a player, but my question is about his management days. In your time on the touchline, have you ever had an assistant chirp on through the game more than Paul Stevenson?
Paul, different class, enthusiasm, great coach, terrific mentality. Just gone in with Tommy Wraith as his assistant yesterday to Kilmarnock. So, it would have been on my mind if I had got a job. Coming up, Paul would have certainly been there. Was part of the success I had at Huddersfield, and there's a great development of young players. The most happiest guy every single day, happy, positive, and a great coach. So yeah, he's good. He's a good fella.
Richard Anderson just says, all right, Lee. John Justice Allen from QTech, he says, played in the same school team as Tommy Herron, wand of a left foot and head and shoulders above everybody else.
Yeah, can't disagree with that. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Rated says, just curious to know Lee's thoughts on how FIFA could better regulate the big money clubs buying top talent and not playing them, such as Shea at Man City and Bale at Real Madrid.
Well, you're never going to be able to stop that as long as the big clubs have the money and the players. It's the players' decision ultimately, isn't it? That's been the saddest thing for me this season. I was so excited when Gareth Bale come back. I was looking forward to seeing a world-class performer coming light up the Premier League. But it hasn't happened. It's tough. I was listening to Chris Coleman, my pal, last night on Monday Night Football, and who managed them brilliantly for the Wales national team. He thinks that there's a chance he could still come back. He needs a run of games. Unfortunately for Jose Mourinho, he doesn't work like that. Jose is at a club where he wants to be. He's used to being a winner. Wherever he goes, he wins trophies. And he needs to do that. And you haven't got time to give someone 4 or 5 games to get rid of them. And it just shows you, it doesn't matter how good you are, if you're not playing at a required level on a weekly basis and on a regular basis, it's difficult to get that back. And I think Gareth's found that for various different reasons, whether that's fitness issues, whether that's confidence issues. I know Chris mentioned that last night. That's a huge part for any player. And that's been the toughest thing for me. But you're never going to be able to stop the big clubs taking the best players. It's the players' decision. They know they've got a tough fight on the hand when they go to these clubs because every single player is world class. And so that's their decision, and if they get left out, it becomes difficult for them to move on.
Okay, Trey and Son says, if Mike Ashley approached you to manage the club, would you take the job, knowing the constrictions you'd be under, so that you couldn't do the job to the best of your ability?
Well, On every other occasion I've had this question, I've said yes, definitely, because you don't know when and if and ever that job's going to be offered to you again, and that would be my dream job in management. That would be the holy grail for me. But when I've had time to think over the last few weeks and months, I've quickly and I've moved to a thought process. Well, you've done some crazy jobs in your time, which have backfired and probably worked against us where I am at the moment, and this would probably be the same. So, whereas I was 100% yes at doing it last time, that has changed, and that's probably 60.
We've lost Lee for that. He's probably had a phone call because he tends to do it on his phone. So let's just bear with him, see if he comes back.
80% yes, 40%.
Yeah, Lee, we've lost you there. We'll try and get through the rest of these questions. Lee will probably come back. He's had this issue before. Using your phone is never the best option for this because obviously if you get a phone call, you start putting the phone call off. Just a little bit about later on. Obviously, it's Tuesday night, and on Tuesday nights we always have Liam Kennedy from the Shields Gazette joining us, and Liam will obviously be talking through the weekend's game and obviously taking your questions. So any questions you have for Liam tonight, we will be on air at 6 o'clock, so give us a shout, and we are on 6 till 7. Wednesday night we will be doing the Retro Show. Now the Retro Show, you can see them in the playlists. We look back at games gone by between Newcastle and whoever the team is that we've decided on the previous week. So last week we did Queen's Park Rangers, which was quite eventful, but tomorrow night I'll be joined as usual by Mitch, by Steve Hasty, by Stu Penman, by George Mitchell, and of course by Steve Wilkinson, and we are looking at games against Norwich City tomorrow night. So yes, plenty to come up on NUFC Matters channel. Lee's back with us, so we got your answer, Lee. You said you were 60% now, I think, on taking the job. So that was that right? Just before you went off. Oh, he's gone again. The internet situation is as bad as Malcolm McDonald's, I've got to say. Take Lee off, and I'll just continue to run through what else we've got until we can get Lee back. If you've missed the last couple of players' interviews as well, yesterday we did Rob Lee, which was a cracking interview with Rob Lee yesterday, and on Sunday, of course, we also had Gavin Peacock on. Gavin Peacock was on the show, and he was promoting his new book, A Greater Glory, From Pitch to Pulpit. See if you can get a copy of that on Amazon. It's due out on the 7th of May. We've got you back now, Lee. So we've got the answer to your question, which said you were 60% for potentially taking it now, which is a bit of a change. So I'm not surprised. Mike Stewart's got a question. He says Newcastle seem to really struggle with confidence, and fear seems a real issue sometimes. Do you think we would benefit from some professional sports psychologists, or do they employ one already?
I'm not under the impression that they employ one. I certainly believe it's massive now in professional sport and elite sport. That because this is one of the biggest factors. We've just talked about one of the best players in world football, and he could be suffering from a lack of confidence in Gareth Bale. And I think when you have a run that Newcastle were on previous, you're trying to find every little fine margin to get those players. Like I said at the start, of the programme, players don't play poorly and make mistakes on purpose. We want good things to be said about. We want to feel great. We want to score goals, make goals as a defender, get clean sheets as a keeper, make good saves, keep clean sheets. We want to do all these things. And sometimes when you're on the opposite side of it and it's not going well, you have self-doubt. You look at your teammate who usually can get you out of trouble, and he's not getting you out of trouble. And, the biggest factor in professional sport for me is between the ears what's going on in the confidence levels and the mindset. So I think it's crucial. It's crucial to have a sports psychologist, giving you positivity, looking at the players who maybe been feeling a bit down. You can tell by the mood that they're in, or they're quiet, or if they're usually bubbly. And it might be something that's affecting them off the pitch as well. So I think it's all these walk of life. It's and certainly when you're in the Premier League, Steve, and you've got like, you know, unlimited finances to go out and get all these different areas targeted in terms of staffing, you should leave no stone unturned. You know, look at what Liverpool and got ridiculed, but they had everything. They had a throw-in coach. I mean, we've got that many coaches now. We could probably do that. We'd have a throw-in coach, a goal kick coach, a corner coach. So, you know, it could be, and that's the fact. Every little detail. You look at the size of the staffing of the clubs now, massive, and I think to be the very best, you leave no stone unturned for those type of things.
Fair enough. Lee, did you ever want to play with Rangers? Says Phil Shuttleworth. He says, Gaz, I loved it there. No doubt you would have done well there too. Did you ever have an opportunity to go to Rangers?
Twice to Rangers. Dick Advocat and with Alex McLeish and the late great Tommy Burns at Celtic. Got a sign for both the Giants. I knew they were big. Had the chance to play in friendlies against them both for Newcastle and Fulham, Celtic and Rangers, and they were full out for friendlies, and the atmosphere was brilliant. Didn't realise how big they were until I went up to Scotland and managed, and how they are. They're an organisation, not just football clubs. And then obviously when my mate was playing up there, Tom Alan Thompson, as a player and as an assistant manager, went up there and, you know, just phenomenal games. Them Old Firm derby matches are just something else. And so yeah, looking back, probably missed out on playing at unbelievable clubs, and I probably wish I had took up the opportunity when it came. Just felt that I had better opportunities down here in England.
Ewan says, what was your relationship like with Peter Lovenkrands at Birmingham?
Fine. Had my ups and downs. You know, I at times thought he wasn't doing well. He thought he was doing better. Where we had manager-player relationship, and so yeah, it was tough because Peter was a blue chip player that I brought in on the, you know, my first couple of weeks, and someone I tried a lot for, and I pulled a lot of strings, and I thought he would be a real good character for us in terms of winning, getting better, and getting in the playoffs. But obviously the financial situation then took hold, and the players that I'd thought I could bring in alongside Peter Lovenkrands, and what I'd said to Peter and enticing him to the club didn't materialise. So it became difficult for us all because we're at the end of the table where we didn't want to be, and we didn't think we would be because of the financial landscape that changed so much.
Yeah, Tim C. He says Shelby definitely needs coaching on corners for sure. Ewan also asked another good question. Actually, he says, "Do you feel like the sport is diluted now? And are you happy that you played in the era that you did?" Good question, Ewan.
I'm certainly happy that I'm that the era I played in. Yeah, I've got no issues with that. I had a great time. I had fantastic teammates, fantastic managers and coaches, great rapport with the supporters I played for. The game has changed massively. I get to know that. Obviously, my son's in academy football now, so it represents England. So I'm going around seeing things with him. At times, it's difficult for me to get my head round. Obviously, I've been a manager, I've been a coach, so I see it from all aspects. It is changing, and there's lots of it changing for the good of the game. Don't get me wrong. But there's some of it changing to the detriment of the game, and there's got to be a balance between the two of them.
How's Bobby doing, just out of interest?
Yeah, it's been tough over the pandemic. Academy football shut down, and when he did get back into it, he had an emergency appendix operation, which sidelined him for 6 weeks. Then, he's back in training, but not a lot of games. Then obviously we've got the weather to contend with, like we've got 2 foot of snow, so that's reduced the playing time. So probably over the course of the year, when you're seeing this as our 1 year anniversary, he's probably played a handful of games, which has been tough for him, especially when he's September going in full time and into full time football, and he's found it difficult. He loves his football. the international setup shut down as well. There's been no international fixtures. He had some terrific opportunities. There was a tournament over in Argentina that got knocked on its head, playing some of Argentina, Brazil, Japan, some fantastic nations that you would love to come up against. And so hopefully we can come out of this one lockdown as quickly as possible, and he can get back into preparing himself for full-time football.
Last question to Tom. He says, do you think your former club Fulham will stay up?
Unfortunately, I don't. It breaks me heart to see it. And Scotty, turned things around really well. Great lad. Obviously played alongside him, and I've been down to see him and popped to see him when I've been to watch them play. And he's done a terrific job getting them up, and they had a tough start, and he turned things around. And they were getting good performances, but they still weren't winning, Steve. And that's why I worry for them. Even when they were playing well, I think they're into double figures in terms of games now without a win. And that's what worries us now. The gap that they've got to make up, I cannot see them doing it. I just think the bottom three who are there now will be the bottom three that ultimately finishes the end of the season, because you always think Burnley will get a couple of results because Sean, with his experience and the way how difficult his team make things for Brighton, have had some terrific results, and like us in the last couple of games, won games that we probably weren't expected to win with the form that we were in. So that's turned it round, and I wish it would be someone else and take Fulham's place, but unfortunately I think that they've gone.
Yeah, good luck to them. Anyway, Scott's, as you said, doing really well there. As long as Newcastle don't get dragged into it, though, that's all I care about. Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner. Click on that. You can subscribe to the channel if you're a first-time viewer. Click like on the video as well, and share. It does help us. Share that onto your social media. I will, of course, be back tonight at 6 o'clock with Liam Kennedy. He'll be taking your questions and looking back at the last 7 days at Newcastle United. Lee Clark, great to have you on, mate. As always, thanks for taking the time. Stay safe, mate, and I'm sure we'll get you on again before the end of the season. Take care, pal.
Thanks, Steve. All the best, everyone.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's